First Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11 says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. The one thing that I began to notice in this generation, I guess we would call Generation X, there was a major difference, something that I really noticed from the prior generation. And I always say on a lot of shows, I refer to this. Nas had a song. He was talking about people living a second childhood. When you look at our community, because I have to really examine us as a people, I look at our conversations. I look at the way we think. I look at the things that we prioritized. And I'm going to say this. As a child, I was able to distinguish the adults from the children. And as a child, on the weekends, we was with our mother. We wasn't dropped off at our grandmother's or our grandparents' house unless we were going to visit. You know, adults were adults. They weren't always in the club 5 days a week. You know, we were not left to be attended to be raised by the TV. You know, it got to the point where we eventually seen the people who were older than us actually take on different tasks, different responsibilities, you know, things that they actually cared about, you know, their career, their job, their health, you know, staying in the gym and things of that nature and being lively. When we used to have parties as kids, we didn't see the women coming down in the basement trying to dance like us. We didn't see the elderly men in our family trying to come down to the basement or be around us and try to act young or try to seem cool and hip. Now, when we get together at family reunions, it was clearly understood that, you know, Big Pa, Big Ma, they was just being funny, you know, for jokes and giggles and just to, you know, make great memories for us to have good laughs. But they eventually made the transition into complete adulthood. They wasn't concerned about always partying. They wasn't concerned about making it a point about they got a passport and want to travel the globe. Now, let me say this, because I know people feel a certain type of way. Things do change. We have evolved as a community. We've taken on things in the latter generations that we wasn't doing prior. And this is to be commended. We're traveling more. We're understanding more about business. We're acquiring more property. We're understanding real estate. There are more black millionaires and billionaires than there's ever been. However, there are some things that have subsided. Some things have been compromised for us. The cultural equality of a community. See, a brother of mine used to always tell me the body always matures faster than the mind. And I always hear it in non-white people whenever they feel challenged, whether there's a conversation of intellectual properties that need to be put on display. I'm a grown ass man. I'm a grown ass woman. And I would always sit back and I would examine what makes you so grown. Because you 50 some years old, you 60 some years old. But when we were actually to test the mental capacity of that mind, still a baby. There's no way in hell. When I used to go around the elders, when I used to go around the table, I used to listen to their conversations. Man, it was talking about adult things, adult situations, problem solving, helping one another out, high level conversations. When our children come around the adult tables now, what do they hear? Bitch, niggas, hoes, clubs, fuck niggas, you know, cars. I got the latest this, you know, the most ignorant music that we listen to. They talk about baby-like stuff, high school, preschool stuff, trying to get with somebody today or somebody they about to fight, or on the phone talking about drama, who owe money, who owe bills or rent and all it. Minute, low frequency level conversations that even a baby can understand. And then you wonder why our kids get to a certain age and think that they know more than us. They think they can cap at us. They think they can tell us a little bit about life. You know why? Because you ain't taught them no different than anything of a baby-like conversation. If we're going to be honest. And I begin to realize the disconnect is that we don't want to put away childish things. We don't want to grow up. A lot of people thought that adulthood was eventually going to be boring. You remember when we was young, we couldn't wait to grow up, to have our own place, to get our own apartment, our own car, you know, a job to pay bills. And then when you become an adult, you find out you don't like to adult. You want to party more like a kid. Exactly when and where did we take on this mentality? My good brother Rob Love made a great statement. He said the parents of the 90s were the worst. We didn't want to parent our children no more. We wanted our children to be friends. We didn't want to whoop their ass no more. We wanted to deal with them the way the Europeans taught us how to deal with our children. And now they kicking our ass. You know what they say? They took pride out the school. Now look at the school systems. We have to put this in complete context, because nowadays what I notice, I don't know why every time I come on this comes up, but now every time when I notice and I look around, my community, my people, we don't want to put away childish things. Have you ever been around a group of black men and see what they talk about and how they think? At what point do you mature your manhood, your masculinity, where bigger things matter? Right? And there's a lot of things that when I'm talking about myself as well too. See, in the former generations, the men eventually stopped running the streets. They started loving one woman. They started raising families. They were able to fix things around the house. They were able to man their manhood. They were able to mature past temptations and desires and say, you know what? I was a young man. I'm grown now. I have to change my tone. I got to change the way that I talk. I got to change the way that I see the world. When I was young, I used to look at girly books and comic books. But when I become older, I began to look at stuff like the U.S. news or, things that apply, that affect us, like, tools, homecraft, things of that nature. We must get to the point where we have to mature as men. We have to mature as women. And then what do we teach our children? Our children, when they come to us, we should always be smarter whenever we're in a room with our children. We should always be smarter whenever in a room full of youth. But now the youth are smarter than the adults, and the adults will wonder why they're bucking back. They look at us like, you 40 years old and you never understood this. You never tried to take the time to learn these things. And I commend anybody for going to get education or further their learning years, going to college. But that don't guarantee that you're still not a child. Because if you go get formal education and you don't solve problems, what's the purpose of even having a degree? And who are you solving problems for? Are you solving problems for your own people? Or are you solving problems for the dominant society? Amos Wilson talks about that all the time, how people are disillusioned at to see the power, to think that there's forward progress when there's been none. You don't look at the social illusion like Claude Anderson used to say. You look at who's at the seat of the power, who's at the root of power, and where do we stand in the mix of things. You wonder why we don't get no respect from any community in the world. And, I used to wonder why I used to be on construction sites and the Migos would look at me like crazy. And I used to wonder why they used to look at me like that. But in the back of their mind, they're probably asking the question, what exactly can this nigga do? What does he really know? I bet you we go up there and start talking about sports, he'll have a whole shitload to say. If we start talking about women, he'll have a whole lot to say. But if we was to ask him, how did you grade this particular land over there? How you shifted this dirt? How do you put in certain rods to start building infrastructures and stuff for houses? They probably feel like he won't know nothing about it. And they look at us like, look at how they treat their women. They beat up on their women. They call their women bitches. They don't even want to show their women, public displays of affection. They don't want to protect their women. They don't want to make families with their women. This is what other communities say and think about us. And I know a lot of times be like, I don't care about what other people think about. Yeah, I understand that. But a lot of times this stuff has truth to it, but we don't want to accept it because the biggest thing that we're doing is lying to ourselves about who we are. Very so often can I have an intelligent conversation of substance with depth without somebody either not understanding, bucking, or just don't understand or feel belittled because they never took the time to cultivate the mind. They only cultivated the body. And just because you cultivate your body and you're in your 50s and 60s, that don't make you grown. That makes you genetically mature. But if you was to sit down and look at some of the people who wear some of the best clothes, drive some of the fanciest cars, you understand? Have some of the best nice looking houses. If you was just to ever sit them down and try to entice them in a conversation of substance and depth, you ain't gonna find it. And they're lacking. So how does one get to adult age and knows nothing? And when I say knows nothing, not that you don't have certain information and not that you can't perform certain things or you don't have certain trades and skills, but how do you not know anything in real life besides an impactful conversation beyond sports, your favorite TV show? You understand? Your fashion, your homegirls, what y'all on, vacationing, hitting parties and beaches. How do you not have any conversation to offer any individual who is in tune with life? Why? Because you're still doing childish things. The only thing that I don't consider childish that adults should always do, you should always have some type of form of activity, movement. They say movement is medicine. You should always be in shape. You should always be exercising. I don't recall growing up seeing this level of obesity in my community because black men and women were always exercising, always doing something. I remember a time growing up in a neighborhood where they cut the grass, wasn't no broken blinds, broken down cars. They cared about themselves. No trash lingered on the sidewalk because they didn't think of themselves. It's trash. Now that's ISIS papers for you. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing always says, when you go to areas and you see black people, predominantly black people in the area, and there's trash everywhere, they don't pick it up because that's what they think of themselves. Better pick that book up, ladies and gentlemen. ISIS Papers, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. I'll put the link down in the comment section. But we're doing childish things. And then I look at what social media does to adult black people. Got them acting silly and stupid, having the most minute, dumbass conversations, and they get a check for it. Childish things. Because in the system of white supremacy, black people who are constructive are the most threat to the system, which is why people don't pay attention to real talk. Real conversation. They pay attention to jokesters. They pay attention to bullshit. They pay attention to the most minute, low-level vibrational. And yes, hypersexualization is the number one thing that draws us in. But that's childlike behavior. That is childlike behavior. At what point do you elevate your mind to where you start to see the bigger light and you start to mature as an adult mentally, not genetically? Not physically. So when I'm around adult people, I expect adult conversations. I expect to be given adult information. But it's sad when I'm around 40, 50, 60-year-old black men and women who talk about the most minute, unimportant things in life. I was in school one time. Me and another, actually the owner's son was sent to go learn a particular system in the trucking industry so we can instruct people and teach these things. And we was on lunch one day, and I just went outside and, the quarters of the eating space. And there were like different groups of people. Now, obviously, it's kind of like the movie Higher Learning, where people grouped together. You had the Asians, and you had the whites, and you had the rich kids, and then you had the black people, which they called the black hole. That's what Ice Cube called it in the movie. But I just sat and I just observed. When I was looking at the table full of the Asian people, they were talking about technology. They were on some high science things. They were talking about highway road infrastructure. Now, I don't know why. I don't know. I'm clearly not understanding why they were having that particular conversation, but I kind of eavesdropped. And then, the white folks, they were talking about more like stocks and bonds and stuff, stuff to deal with money matters, right? But when it got to the black table that I can hear, it was all nigga motherfucker, goddamn, goddamn, and were the loudest of all the tables, and they wasn't saying nothing. I didn't hear anything in that conversation that sparked my interest, sparked my mind, sparked my inquisitivity to want to learn. I didn't hear anything of value. Now, disclaimer, I'm not saying groups and parties of non-white people don't exist on this level, but even sometimes when you do get them, the biggest thing that gets in the way of solving problems is ego. I say all the time, a lot of us are too educated to solve problems. So I don't want to make a sweeping indictment about all my people, but I will never relinquish that 85% of the deaf, dumb, and blind. And you can perceive that and take that however you want. But I like high-level conversations. When we're adult, let's do adult things. We can have adult activities without having to act like children. I don't recall going to Snooks grocery store back in St. Louis. Is Snooks even open? I don't ever recall going to the grocery store and my mama fighting another woman at the grocery store. Never recall that. I don't recall my mama or any of her peers or any black woman leaving their house in pajamas in a fucking bonnet. I never seen that before. Because why? They were grown-ass women with grown-ass minds and did grown women things. And I didn't see black men back in them days half-ass relaxed. They were always well put together, like gentlemen. And listen, people think that, especially a lot of women, y'all think because the man put on the suit, that's a man. No, a man is what he is in his actions and the problems that he can solve, not what he puts on. I know a lot of guys that wear suits clean as hell, soft as fuck, never even held a hammer, couldn't even hammer or use a screwdriver. But I know guys that may not even had it like that. They might be casual as hell, but they might be the most handy men and most effective men that you can use in your life, right? So check this out. Illiteracy. There's a lesson. The 120, my book of life bears the 120 from a lost 5%, nation of gods and earths. The one thing I've always respected about the culture is that you could never be a part of that culture and you not know your lessons. You not know your supreme mathematics. But I want to refer to something when it comes to illiteracy. In the 1 through 14 in the 120 is the equality degree. And equality is the supreme mathematics that represents the number 6. And that degree asks the question, Why does the devil teach and keep our people to be so illiterate? Answer: because he wants to use them as a tool and as a slave. He keeps them blind to themselves so that he can master them. Illiterate means ignorant. So what do I mean by that? I seen something the other day on IG said I was an open book, but this person was too illiterate to read me. What does that mean? We don't have basic literacy to understand the reality of life. We don't have the basic literacy to understand what is going on and taking place in front of us by all measures and ways of codification. All right, Pop, I heard you. I'm gonna give me a new set of headphones, y'all. I know I have to do this once or twice every show, but I promise I'm gonna get some more headphones. I'm gonna get a whole team and I'll get a whole editing crew and everything. I'm gonna really spice this show up, right? But illiteracy. And at the end of that lesson, it says illiterate means ignorant. I can't tell you how many times, especially when it comes to the dating pool, how many times I have to mash my conversation and my food up for a grown-ass woman, as I'm always told, who absolutely don't know shit. If I was to sit up there and talk about wine, clubs, food, reality shows, if I was to sit up there and talk about all this goofy shit, great conversation. But when I want to talk about family history, mental health, you know, what do you think about the new wave of the future, where money is going, space colonization, you understanding how to live off the land, you know, learning things. You know, as a 51-year-old, you know, some things that people, that's why I always give shout out to people in the South. There's things I'm learning at 51 years old I didn't learn as a young man, but I'm learning now, but it's so essential to me. Just simple, basic things, simple, basic activities, stuff we used to do as kids. You know, I'll say some stuff like, hey, let's go hiking. I don't want to mess up my nails. I guess I got my hair done. Or like a lot of you men. Just the other day, my homeboy had the video. He FaceTimed me and showed me a young punk sitting in the car while a girl pumps gas. He's completely illiteracy to what a man should do. And when you open up a conversation, something that is so delicate, and I just can't take it. I mean, it's hard as hell. And this is just general. There are very few people that I can call and have an in-depth conversation who are not illiterate. Illiterate means you're not able to register what's being taken place in front of you. And as the lesson said, he keeps them blind to themselves so he can master them. The devil teaches you. And I say black people always reproduce themselves biologically and then hand their children over to be raised psychologically by the system. Because a lot of people don't believe in teaching their children knowledge of self. And a lot of black parents believe that it is absolutely unnecessary and not essential to teach their children about white supremacy, racism, which is the whole dominating factor from the day that you're born to the day that you die. You don't have to agree with me. And when people say it don't impact their lives, according to the code, I automatically end the conversation. But on this platform, I will never leave you confused or misunderstood. And if you do understand it, kudos. But if you don't, it's fine anyway. Makes me know never mind, because I'm gonna love you and I'm gonna value you regardless if I respect you or regardless if I think you're an idiot, which is kind of a harsh word, right? I don't think it's that people that are not idiots. It's just that people arrive when they arrive. I used to always say, man, black people so stupid, black people so dumb. Black people are not stupid. Black people are not dumb. Black people are just not applicable to things that are matter, because why? The devil taught you. You love the devil because the devil gives you nothing. Now, I'm speaking supremely. I'm speaking really out of 120. I'm speaking out of the 1 to 14. What do you really know? What have you been taught? They say by 8 it's too late. And so now I have to deal with a sea of adult people who didn't learn particular information and knowledge young, that when we cross paths, when I present a certain conversation, it's illiterate to them. They completely don't understand it. But what they do understand is how to dance. What they do understand is how to play ball. What they do understand is how to crack jokes and be a coon and laugh, make people laugh, because this is what you were taught. This is what's the main value for us as a people in our community. If we would have just become literate and understand what's going on in this world, we become literate to the codification that's being used against us. We become literate on learning how to mate with one another. We become literate on learning how to understand finances. We become literate to logic. We can change the game. And there's a wise man once said, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. And I'm saying the same thing. I have to be around people who are smarter than me. I am not a know-it-all Negro. I love to learn. I sit up and watch podcasts all day long. I listen to talk radio all day long because I love to learn. And guess what? It don't always have to come from Black people, because I love literacy. I want to be literate, to present good literature, to be literal, to be able to articulate myself and communicate effectively. How can you have any type of relationship in life, whether it's a child, whether it's a better half, whether it's your job, whether it's a family member, and you are illiterate and do not know how to communicate? I'm not talking books. I'm talking life. Just like right now, I hate to say this Caitlin Clark situation. She took a hard foul yesterday, and the whole world is reaming about the other player that did her, shoved her, but nobody said anything about what happened at the court prior. But then again, Angel Reese took an even harder foul around her neck. No media coverage. But people want to sit up. Black people want to sit up and defend the white girl, the phenom that can shoot. But I haven't heard them say anything about Angel Reese. That's because you are illiterate to narratives. You are illiterate to codification. You are illiterate to programming. And it don't just stop there. You're illiterate to how they're treating you on your job. You're illiterate to whether or not you don't know family member value and love you. You're illiterate to not understand that health is critical and more important, but you take care of your car more than you do your own body. Illiteracy is a powerful thing that is killing people slowly, unaware, unknown. If you want quality relationships in life, and that's throughout all of life, not just relationships, you must become literate. How can you become literate? Start thinking differently. Start getting around different people. And the one thing that I always say, pick a book and read something. And if you're not a book reader, get a Kindle and get an audio book and listen to something that is high level conversation, that's high vibrational, and become literate. And when you become literate, guess what? You become more sexy, more attractive. You glow to people. The only reason why you feel intimidated by certain people, you don't like them and you don't hate them, is because you perceive them to be smarter than you. Because you're not as literate. And that's mental, that's scientific, that's mathematical. Become literate. Because I'm telling you, I can't do it. I cannot do it. And listen, when you begin to grow mentally and when you begin to really impact yourself and put things within its proper context, you're going to be told that you're cocky. You're going to be told that you're arrogant because people just ain't got the mental ammo to understand you. And I was once told by my daughter's mother some time ago, she was just like, I don't think I'm good enough for you. And I didn't understand why she kept saying it. And this is from a person who has degrees, who is very intelligent, very smart, right? She wasn't intimidated by me at all, not insecure at all. But I perceived and understood it years later why she was saying these things. It's just certain literacies that I was able to expose and explain that she never understood. I'll tell you like this. I was proud today that she saved 2 young black men who were being mishandled by authorities on a hot summer day, bare-chested on black tar pavement. Was at lunch, got up out of her chair to go take care of something that a degree could never teach her, that the pastor on Sunday could never teach her, that family members have no clue how to go about doing. That, my friends, is the definition of being literate. Understanding life and what's happening in the moment. Confusion is one of the number one weapons of the system. And people think they know and know absolutely nothing. And I don't know everything, and I would never tell you that I know everything. Again, people say, hey man, how you doing? I always say, I'm still learning, and I'm going to continue to learn to the day I transition. But understand, when you come into contact with people who are literate, you need to embrace those people and learn how to learn from those people. You can't say you want to be led and learn more, but you let ego get in the way because they saying something you never heard before. And now your defense mechanism comes up. I always say a lot of people got a full tank of mouth and a small tank of brain. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Become literate. Put away childish things. Grow up. There's nothing wrong as you become adult to become more settled, to be in more peaceful spaces, to be more quiet, to pick up a hobby, to exercise the mind, to combat any type of Alzheimer's that might be setting in, early set on dementia that could be setting in. any health issues that could be setting in. Right now, we need to be more focused as we get older to be able to be maintainable in society. Society moves on. Society is getting faster. Society is becoming more advanced. You must become technologically literate. We want to end illiteracy, ladies and gentlemen. And one more thing I want to say. One of the main things about literacy is understanding the purpose of life. If we could just get out of this thing of just wanting love, everybody searching for love and just, I got to be with somebody. We so focused on each other. That's because you don't have a purpose for yourself. When you say you're dating for a purpose, you don't have a purpose for yourself, you make other people the purpose to validate you. Okay? Become literate and understand that you have assignments, you have gifts and talents that must be used to solve problems while you're here. Life is beautiful, it's precious, but it's so quick and it's going to go so fast. And I'm appreciative for every single moment that I lived, everybody in my life that value me, my loved ones, my children, family, friends. I value you all. Ladies and gentlemen, we must put away childish things and we must become distinguishably adults. Adults. Let's have adult conversations. Let's do adult things. Progress as adults. Let's do like the old school did. A lot of times people feel like, oh, that's old, that's outdated. A lot of things that the older generation did, they were on point. And we ain't passed a lot of the older generation's culture like we think we have. But we need to rekindle some things that are proven. And also to do our best to maintain and keep our families together. I'm gonna give a shout out to my young man, Kaishan. What you about to do is grown man stuff. And any young man in his 20s, late 20s, 30s, Dr. Francis Creswell said we shouldn't marry or think about making children until we're 30, because then that's what we begin to really understand who we are and how to move. But any young man, and like I told you over the phone, Kai, the biggest mistake I ever made in my life as a man was not to marry the mother of my children. That's the biggest mistake I ever made. Okay. But I'm not gonna regret it. I'm not gonna bask in it. But I don't want none of y'all young men to make that mistake. All right. Shout out to my mom and dad who recently celebrated the 53 years of marriage. Shout out to my two younger siblings who are married to the women they have children by. That's grown stuff. And that's where I was illiterate at, ladies and gentlemen. Being transparent, I was illiterate. Read all these books, thought I knew everything. But the most important thing was to make a life with a good woman. Because we ain't going to meet many in life. And there's no reason to go dogging people out and always criticizing and pointing fingers. But we must become literate. Coming up in about an hour or so, we got a hot one coming. We back on the softball grind, man. But this is going to be from the perspective of the competitive softball player. There's been a lot of chaos and a lot of upheaval about, a lot of noise being raised about the spotting of the runs. And as we see, another rec team has won the tournament in, I quote unquote, I guess, a division where comp players, and there's all type of rules. The change is always good and everything's going to evolve. But when change comes, there's always a sacrifice to be made. But who's going to take that hit? You're going to penalize guys who actually work on their team and work on their game, teams that can assemble to win. You're going to penalize that? Actually, rather than making guys step up and do the best that they can do. It's going to be a great show, man. So y'all get ready to tap in. I went and ran this show earlier for the purpose of us coming on. And I got a new guest coming on tonight. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that I'm very excited about having coming on. And let's get ready to talk about it now. I would love to get Clay Dickey to come on, man. Me and Clay talked about it. He just kind of smiled and laughed about it. You know what I'm saying? So if I could get Brother Dickey to come on, man, that'll be, everything for me. Or if we come on the BSC Circus Show, and understand, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, make sure you go give BSC Softball a follow. Clay Dickey a follow. It is something that is big. It's a big deal. It's happening. And also, too, since I'm on the subject of softball, one episode that I've always wanted to do that I'm going to definitely make happen. I'm gonna get players and coaches from Enough Said on this show. ESPN, E60, 30 for 30. They should have been covered these sisters, but they are the greatest black softball team ever. Honorable mention to the Pacers and Supreme and Jabali's. If there's a couple of other teams I might be missing, it's no disrespect to you all Georgia Travelers. It is New Image, Long Live, Robert 19. But Enough Said is a team. I've never seen nothing like this team ever. And these women, they have beat men. They used to be sponsored by Eastern and lost sponsorship, politics, again, being literate to what's going on. So anyway, man, y'all get ready to tap in. We're going to run this show. We're going to run it about 9 o'clock, on the Eastern time. We're gonna have a great discussion. Now I try to get y'all rec guys to come on. Y'all was too scared. I gave y'all an opportunity to hit me up, DM me, send me an email, and I get you on the show to state your case. But you can't be woofing if you being spotted runs per inning. Then all of a sudden, when the game comes in the open inning, y'all say don't complain, don't complain. But then let's just take softball back to what it used to be, where it was just one division, you know. And then it was rec and it was super rec. So again, in professional sports, man, if the Orlando Magic, if they won for 13, you know, they don't get spotted runs because they're gonna play Boston, and I mean points because they're gonna play Boston the next night, or if they got to go play, if LA got to play a hot team like who's the hot team like Dallas, you know, LeBron James and the Lakers can't walk in there with a 20-point spot because they playing Dallas and Dallas is the better team. It don't work like that. We grown ass men, bro. Now you can say, now we get into like genetics and talent when it comes to sports. Yeah. But anyway, as always, man, I thank you all for sitting in. And I haven't said this on the last couple of shows, but I'm gonna say it right now. The biggest mistake that you can make in life is to think that you have time. Wait a minute. Back it up. We bringing sexy back to the everyday hardworking men and women who impact your life within close proximity. Want to rise above this mandate, which is called Black culture. And now, the biggest mistake that you could ever make in life is to think that you have time. People become literate. Peace.
Equality versus equity. Equality means every child gets a pair of shoes. Equity means every child gets a pair of shoes that fit. That means every school district has to meet every student's individual needs.
I'm Jerry O'Green with the Black Student Advocate. We advocate for Black employees and Black students within the K-12 school districts. We hold school districts accountable to make sure that Black students and employees are in a fair and equitable workplace.